My name is Eli. I'm 33, and I've always been the kind of guy who remembers birthdays, shows up with a gift, and offers to help clean up even if I wasn't the one who made the mess. My family has never made that easy. I'm not the black sheep exactly, more like the invisible one. I'm not dramatic or loud, and I've never had a big falling out with anyone. But over the years, I've felt the slow, quiet burn of being edged out. Little things. Group chats I wasn't added to. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Family photos where I was mysteriously absent even though I'd been there, standing just off to the side. I always gave them the benefit of the doubt. They forgot. I'd tell myself. It wasn't personal. I held on to that narrative longer than I should have. I guess part of me thought if I just kept showing up, being helpful, staying kind, they'd eventually see me again. The thing about being excluded quietly is it gives people plausible deniability. And that's the worst part. No one has to say, you're not wanted. They just make it so you stop expecting an invite. So last month, I was at my nephew Liam's 7th birthday party, my sister's kid. I brought him a Lego Star Wars set he'd been begging for and even helped him build the first half of it. I stayed after the party while the other adults cleared out and helped wash dishes while my sister scrolled through her phone. Casual conversation, small talk, nothing off. It felt normal. Like maybe, just maybe, things were leveling out. So when I said, can't wait for the big family dinner tomorrow, looking forward to catching up with everyone, it was with total sincerity. My cousin Tara froze mid-bite of leftover cake. Then she burst into laughter. Wait, you don't know? That was yesterday. My stomach dropped, and I turned to my aunt across the kitchen, half hoping this was a bad joke. But no, she pulled out her phone without hesitation. She had photos. A long table set up at my parents' backyard. Fairy lights, champagne glasses, everyone dressed up. To my horror, even extended family I hadn't seen in years were there. Toasts, speeches, kids playing, group shots. It wasn't some thrown-together backyard barbecue, it was the family dinner. The one my mom hosts every summer, the one that's basically a reunion. My aunt started swiping through the gallery like she was showing me vacation photos. Oh, this one was right before the dessert. That's when your mom gave her little speech about being surrounded by all her blessings. She said that last part slowly, I starting to me like she realized, too late, that maybe I shouldn't be hearing this. But the moment was already poisoned. My face went hot. My mouth was dry. And then my sister, who hadn't said a word until now, looked up from drying a plate and muttered, maybe take the hint next time. Just like that. I didn't say anything. I didn't even move. I just stood there for a few seconds, watching her casually wipe down a serving tray like she hadn't just stabbed me in the chest. The room suddenly felt airless. I put down the sponge, walked to the living room, picked up the envelope with Liam's birthday card and the extra gift card I'd slipped in as a surprise. And I left. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about her words. Take the hint. I played them back again and again. The way she said it, not angrily, not with malice. Just tired, like it had been a long time coming. Like I was some clueless outsider who hadn't taken the message despite the increasingly obvious signs. Like I was a burden for still believing I had a place. I'll admit it, I cried in my car. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. It wasn't about missing the dinner, it was about the final clarity. The unmistakable confirmation that I wasn't one of them anymore. That I'd become, at best, a distant obligation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking through years of slights I'd brushed off. The time they told me the Christmas dinner was just immediate family, and then posted group photos with people I barely recognized. The group chats I only found out about through screenshots. The forgotten birthday wishes. The jokes that I never quite got because they'd happened in rooms I wasn't invited into. But here's the thing. I'm not someone who seeks revenge. I'm not petty. I don't want to get back at anyone. What I wanted, what I needed, was to finally be done. No more hoping. No more showing up. No more handing out grace like candy, praying it'd buy me a seat at the table. I started planning something that night. Not revenge, at least, not in the usual sense. Something more permanent. Something they wouldn't see coming, because they never see me at all. The first step was financial. You see, for the past few years, I've been doing well. I work in IT, and while I'm not a millionaire, I've made smart investments, especially in the last few years when I got into property management. No one really asks me about my life, so they don't know I own 3 rental homes now. They don't know I've been helping my parents quietly cover things like roof repairs and plumbing issues through anonymous grants I set up through my LLC. I never needed credit for it. I just wanted to support them. Because they're my parents. Or, they were. A week after the birthday party, I got a call from my mom. She was frantic. The central air in her house had gone out during the first heat wave of the season. We were told the repairs are going to be over $8,000, she said, voice shaking. The guy you usually work with said he didn't get the usual maintenance retainer this year. Did something happen with the fund? I calmly told her I had dissolved the grant program. She was confused at first, but I didn't elaborate. I'm sure you and everyone who was at the dinner can figure something out, I said. Silence on her end. I could almost hear her thoughts racing. I didn't wait for her to respond. I just ended the call politely. That same day, I called my lawyer. There were other things I'd funded over the years: college savings for my niece, emergency dental work for my uncle, a part-time assistant my sister used to help with her Etsy business. I had receipts for all of it. None of them knew I'd tied those funds to clauses and agreements, and none of them knew those clauses could be canceled with a single signature. I signed, sent the letters, froze the accounts. It took about 2 weeks for the ripple to hit. My inbox flooded. Calls, messages, missed FaceTimes. One from my cousin that just said, "What is going on?" But I didn't respond. And then came the family group chat. Not the one I'd been excluded from, the old one. The one I had created 5 years ago when Grandpa passed and everyone wanted to coordinate funeral logistics. I still had admin rights. I renamed the chat to maybe take the hint, and then, one by one, removed every single member. I didn't say a word, just silence. But that was only the beginning, because there was still one thing I hadn't taken back. And once I did, it changed everything. The thing I hadn't taken back yet, the one thread still tethering me to them, was the lake house. It wasn't technically mine. Not fully. It belonged to my grandparents, then passed down jointly to my mom and her sister, my Aunt Val. After Val passed, her half went to my cousin Tara, the same cousin who laughed at me about missing the family dinner. Years ago, when my mom fell behind on some payments, I quietly bought out her share. Legally, I owned 50%. But no one ever updated the family's mental scorecard. They still treated it like grandma's place. Everyone used it freely, weekends, holidays, even full summers. And I let them. For years. I never booked it for myself. Never once said no when someone wanted to use it. I even paid for the new dock last summer. Quietly. Without credit. But now? Now the lake house was a stage. And I had the script. I waited for Memorial Day weekend, when the whole family usually flooded in. It had been tradition for over a decade. Barbecues. Bonfires. The kids fishing off the pier while the adults got tipsy on cheap drinks and louder as the sun set. I used to love it. But I hadn't been invited the last 3 years. This time, though, I didn't need an invite. I just needed to show up. 3 days before the weekend, I filed the paperwork to restrict shared access to my half of the property, thanks to a little-known clause in the deed that allowed either owner to petition use if conflict arose. My lawyer made it airtight. I wasn't blocking them from using the house. I was just requiring a co-owner agreement to do so. Tara, of course, hadn't been paying attention to any of the legal mail. Too used to me being nice Eli. Friday morning, I drove up early, unlocked the house, parked my truck sideways in the driveway so no one could pull in behind me. Then I waited. It didn't take long. Around noon, 3 cars rolled up. My sister, Tara, and my mom, plus the kids and spouses. They were laughing until they saw me. Tara stepped out first. "You're here?" she said, voice tight. I smiled. "It's Memorial Day. Thought I'd enjoy the lake." She walked right up to me, arms crossed. "Well, we plan to stay the weekend." I told Mom she could have the master. "That's going to be a problem," I said, not unkindly. "The house is locked for co-owner review. You would have seen the notice if you opened your mail." She blinked, confused. "What notice?" My sister chimed in, already irritated. "Eli, don't be dramatic. We've been coming here forever. Just because you weren't invited to one dinner." I held up a hand. Calm. It wasn't one dinner. And it wasn't about the dinner. It's about respect. Something this family stopped giving a long time ago. My mom finally approached, her voice quiet. "Eli, honey, we didn't mean to hurt you. It was just, things got busy. You know how it is." I looked at her, and for a second, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered every time she'd defended my sister's cruelty, laughed off exclusion like it was a misunderstanding, or played peacemaker by asking me to be the bigger person. Again. And again. "I know exactly how it is," I said. "Which is why I'm here now. This house isn't a shared vacation spot anymore. If you want access, we draft a new agreement. We split maintenance. We rotate usage. Or, I shrugged. We sell. You wouldn't dare, Terrace said, voice rising. You destroy the family tradition over what? Hurt feelings? I met her gaze, steady. No. You already destroyed the family part. I'm just handling the paperwork. They tried yelling, pleading, guilt-tripping. My mom teared up. My sister called me selfish. Tara threatened to sue. But it didn't matter. I had everything documented. The messages, the receipts, the clause in the deed. In the silence I'd been drowning in for years, that was finally gone. In its place was clarity. Cold, clear, and necessary. Eventually, they left. Not without a few final words thrown at my back. But I didn't flinch. I stood on that porch until the cars disappeared down the gravel road. Then I went inside, opened a beer, and sat in the old rocking chair Grandma used to use. That night, I lit a fire in the pit out back. Watched the embers rise into the sky like sparks from some forgotten 4th of July. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But the final part? That came the next morning. Because I wasn't done. I had something else to send. And once they opened it, they'd realize the real consequences hadn't even started yet. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of birds and nothing else. No kids screaming on the dock, no blaring Bluetooth speakers from the porch, no smell of my sister's always overcooked bacon. Just stillness. It was almost eerie how peaceful it was. And I liked it. I brewed myself a cup of coffee, walked barefoot down to the water, and watched the early mist curl off the surface like steam from a boiling secret. I had a lot on my mind, but I wasn't sad. Just focused. Resolved. The night before had been a line in the sand. But now? Now it was time to make it permanent. Before I left for the city, I stopped by the post office in town and handed over a thick manila envelope addressed to my family lawyer. Inside was the final piece of the puzzle, my formal decision to sell my half of the lake house. Not just to anyone, but to a buyer I'd already vetted. A private couple from out of state, no kids, no drama, just retirees who wanted a quiet escape for the summer months. I'd even offered them a slightly better deal if they agreed to one condition. They'd put up a gate. Not a huge one, just enough to clearly mark their half and legally prevent any accidental visits from extended family members who had once treated the house like their personal vacation hub. But the envelope didn't just include the sale contract. It also contained my exit letter, a single page folded on top of the documents, addressed to my entire family. I wrote it slowly, carefully, over 2 nights. I didn't want to be cruel, I just wanted to be honest. Brutally, surgically honest. Here's a part of what it said. To everyone who forgot me, you may not have realized it, but over the years, I became a ghost in this family. Not because I drifted away, but because you quietly pushed me there. With your exclusions, your silence, your smug smirks when I'd show up still believing I mattered. I was the helper, the giver, the quiet one, that extra at the table. I never asked for much, just a chair and a little kindness. But your message has been clear. I'm not family. I'm a resource, a wallet, an afterthought, a punchline. So now, I'm taking the hint. You won't have to forget to invite me anymore. You won't have to roll your eyes when I show up or whisper in the kitchen when I leave the room. I'm done with all of it. I'm not angry. I'm not vengeful. I'm simply done. This house? It was the last place where I still felt tethered to any kind of belonging. And now, I've let it go. The buyers are sweet. They'll take care of it. And don't worry, they won't tolerate uninvited guests. Not even on holidays. Consider this letter your official notice. I'm no longer available for guilt, gaslighting, or group chats. I wish you all well. Truly. But from now on, my peace comes first. Eli. 3 days later, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls. Voicemails. A flurry of texts that went from confused to panicked to furious in the span of hours. My sister, who hadn't said a kind word to me in over a year, suddenly had a lot to say. Things like, "You're breaking Mom's heart," and "You're acting like a child." My cousin Tara sent a wall of text that started with, "Are you seriously selling the house?" and ended with, "You'll regret this." But the one that really stuck with me came from my mom. It was just one sentence. "Why are you doing this to us?" I stared at that message for a long time. I almost replied. I even typed a few different things, some sharp, some gentle, one version that just said, "Because you let them." But I deleted it all. Because she already knew. A week later, the sale closed. The new owners took over. The family tried to block it, But since Tara hadn't kept up with her share of the maintenance taxes and I had majority rights on the deed thanks to a little-known clause I'd activated through my LLC, they couldn't stop it. Legally, financially, emotionally, it was done. Summer came and went. They ended up renting a lake Airbnb 2 towns over. I saw the photos on my cousin's Instagram. Different doc. Same forced smiles. Same energy of pretending nothing had changed. Except, it had. Because the next time they needed a favor, there was no Eli to call. No silent supporter to pick up the slack. No wallet with feelings, as they once called me behind my back on a hot mic during a group Zoom I wasn't supposed to hear. And while they scrambled to adjust, I was building something better. A life where I wasn't invisible. A new circle of friends who saw me, appreciated me, laughed with me, and never once made me beg for a seat at the table. It wasn't about revenge. It was about release. But don't get me wrong. There was one more twist. Because 2 months after the house sale finalized, something interesting happened at work. My company launched a new mentorship initiative, a paid program where we invited applicants from across the region to train in IT and project management. It was designed for people looking to start over. Guess who applied? Tara. She didn't realize the application would land directly on my desk. And she definitely didn't expect the little note I stapled to her rejection letter. Just 6 words. Maybe take the hint next time. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. No more calls. No more texts. It was as if, after years of silent dismissals, the silence had finally become mutual. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to fix it. I stopped checking their social media. I removed myself from the last remnants of family email threads. My phone was still, and my mind was clearer than it had been in years. But clarity doesn't mean peace comes easy. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I'd gone too far. If I should have just kept being the quiet one. The dependable one. The one who bit his tongue for the sake of keeping a fragile family illusion intact. That internal guilt had been a well-worn jacket, familiar, even comforting in its own twisted way. But guilt, I realized, is a tool manipulators use when outright control doesn't work anymore. It was hard to let it go. But I did. Because something else started growing in its place, something stronger. Dignity. A sense of boundaries. A strange but welcome pride in the fact that I had, for the first time, chosen myself over people who had proven again and again that they wouldn't have chosen me. Work got better too. I got promoted. Turns out when you're not constantly drained by toxic family dynamics, your brain has more room to thrive. I finally took that trip to Kyoto I'd been putting off for years. Went solo. Spent 2 weeks wandering through bamboo forests and sipping matcha on quiet balconies. I didn't post about it. Didn't announce it to the world. I just lived it. Fully, quietly, for myself. The final thread unraveled on Thanksgiving. Traditionally, it was hosted at my parents' house. A big production. Stuffing recipes copied from Grandma's old notes. My dad's dry turkey. The usual arguments over who got to sit closest to the fireplace. And me, of course, if I was invited, usually stuck at the far end of the kids' table or in the folding chair by the door. No one really noticed when I stopped coming a few years ago. But this year, things were different. That morning, I got a knock at my door. It was my father. I hadn't seen him in nearly a year. He looked older. A little thinner. His once jet black hair was grayer than I remembered. He was holding a foil-covered dish. His eyes were bloodshot. Not from crying, I don't think. Just the kind of long, slow wear that happens when life finally forces a man to sit with his choices. "Can I come in?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just stepped aside. He sat down at my kitchen table and put the dish down. He didn't offer it. Didn't explain it. Just stared at the wood grain for a while like it held answers he didn't have. "Your mother's not doing well," he finally said. I nodded. That tends to happen when you lose control over people. He flinched. Whether it was the words or the calm way I said them, I'm not sure. "She's sorry, Eli. She says it every day." I poured him a glass of water and sat across from him. She had years to say it to my face. He looked like he wanted to argue. Then he sighed and said, "You were right to walk away." I didn't expect that. He continued, "I told her we should have handled things differently. That we shouldn't have treated you like some outsider in your own bloodline. I tried to talk to your sister about it. She says you're being dramatic, that you're holding a grudge." I laughed softly. Not out of amusement, just disbelief. Of course she does. She's not doing so well either. Her Etsy shop folded. She's staying with us now. Your mother's under a lot of stress. And he looked up at me finally, really looked. "I'm not here to guilt you. I'm here because I realized something. You weren't the one who abandoned the family. We abandoned you. And we just got used to the idea that you'd never push back." The silence between us sat heavy. Then he added, "I read your letter." I raised an eyebrow. "The one you sent to the lawyer." He forwarded a copy to me after the house was sold. I read it 3 times. I cried each time. I didn't know what to say. "You're a better man than I ever gave you credit for," he said. "I'm sorry it took losing the house and losing you to see it." I believed him. I don't know why, but I did. There was something raw about his voice. Not performative. Just worn out. I stood, walked to the fridge, and pulled out a small pumpkin pie I had picked up the day before. I sliced 2 pieces, placed one in front of him. "No turkey," I said, "but it's real whipped cream." He smiled a little. We didn't talk much after that. Just ate. 2 men with too much history between them and no real map forward. But it was something. Not a full repair. Not a reconciliation. But a start. And I made it clear, if things were to ever be different, it would be on my terms now. No more appeasement. No more backseat in my own story. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From my mom. I read it twice. Then I put it away. I wasn't ready to respond. Maybe I never would. Forgiveness doesn't come on cue. And it certainly doesn't come without change. Weeks passed. I was moving into winter with a kind of peace I hadn't known in years. Real peace. Earned peace. Then, just before Christmas, I got a text. Not from my sister. Not from Tara. From Liam, my nephew. It was a video message. "Hey, Uncle Eli," he said, grinning toothlessly into the camera. "Mom says we're not supposed to talk to you, but I miss you." I told her that's dumb. "I hope you're okay. I'm building another Lego spaceship. It's got 3 engines this time." Behind him, I heard my sister's voice yell, "Liam, give me that phone." The video cut off. I watched it again. And again. My chest hurt in a way that had nothing to do with anger. Just sadness. Not for myself. For him. For what he was being dragged into. The cycle of exclusion. The weaponization of silence. He didn't deserve that. So I sent back a video. "Hey, bud," I said, smiling. "That sounds like an awesome spaceship. I bet it's the fastest one in the galaxy. I miss you too. And I'm always here. No matter what anyone says." Okay. I never heard back. But that was okay. Because I meant it. The revenge was never really about hurting them. It was about stopping the hurt they caused me. About putting up walls not to punish, but to protect. And maybe, just maybe, someone in the next generation won't grow up feeling invisible. Maybe they'll learn it's okay to say no. To draw lines. To walk away from people who only love you when it's convenient. As for me, I'm good. I bought a new place. Smaller, cozier, with a real fireplace and a wide front porch. I host game nights with friends. Cook dinners that aren't critiques in disguise. I laugh more. Sleep better. And when I see old photos pop up on my phone from family gatherings where I stood off to the side, half smiling, half hoping, I swipe past them. Not because I'm bitter. Because I'm free.